if I have to read another obnoxious, like just completely stupid Cenk tweet about this, honestly, its own personal project and trying to build a right-wing audience, fine. But just please.
You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so Sam Seder the other day had some comments on his show, just a solo show without Emma Vigeland, about Ryan Grimm, who had made some comments in defense of Marjorie Taylor Greene after AOC said that she doesn't think Marjorie Taylor Greene is to be trusted on the issue of Israel. So that was something I covered on here the other day, and it did cause a little bit of a kerfuffle because AOC said that. Then you had some people cropping up on the left to say that not only that AOC shouldn't discount Marjorie Taylor Greene as a potential ally, but also some people saying that AOC is like worse than Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is somehow a better champion of Gaza and Palestine than AOC, which is just very ridiculous. That's very detached from reality. That's the kind of narrative that's very ripe for bad actors to get involved, bots, etc., to kind of boost that thing, because it really just obscures the truth. And so they get into that in this segment here. I was watching about this on the Vanguard the other day. They covered that Sam Seder said this about Ryan Grimm, but the part that I think they missed, I didn't see them cover it at least, is that Sam Seder also had some comments about Cenk here. Cenk Uygur, who is one of the other main people who has been doing this kind of defending Marjorie Taylor Greene type of position, which is funny because they normally like to stay on the Cenk Uygur beat. So I'm not sure if they missed that, or maybe I just didn't see the part where they covered it. But you know, Cenk is a lot more inflammatory and I think a lot more just openly wrong about his concept of what a left-right populist alliance should look like at this point. Whereas Ryan Grimm, I think, is more just from a journalism perspective, you know, like this person is saying the right things, so people should give her some credit for that or something. But Sam Seder pretty thoroughly goes through here why that is naive, and also gets into, you know, the pretty explicit difference between Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC, which really doesn't even need to be described for that long. But what does require a little bit more reiterating is what exactly Marjorie Taylor Greene's political trajectory has been versus what some people are framing it to be. So here's Sam Seder on that.
Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been speaking out about Israel. She has been speaking out against Trump's refusal to release the Epstein stuff. I don't know that she said anything else that aligns with my politics, but the idea that we, as the left or any that there should be some type of partnership here is just absurd. I am happy she's doing it. But to align with her in is a mistake for many reasons. Like, I don't know who her constituency is. She may be peeling people off the right on this topic. That's great. But like, what's the value of praising her? The value of praising her only goes to her and it impacts people on the left. And there's every reason to distrust her. Ryan Grimm, who more often than not, I think has good takes, said something on that on Twitter, something to the effect of like, she sacrificed her career to go against Trump on these topics. And I'm sorry, that's not what happened here. Greene previously pulled her name out of the race for the U.S. Senate. Held by John Offset, reportedly under pressure from members of her party, including Trump, who were concerned that she might win big with the conservative primary voters, but fall flat in the general election. She was top 10% fundraising in all House incumbents, but understand that she was also, do we have this down here? Trump wanted her out. She knows that she's locked out of leadership in the House, even though she's doing all this fundraising. She also has made millions of dollars. We're talking in late July. We're talking August of 2025. She's made all this money. She's raised all this money for Trump. He has kissed his ass. She was his loyal soldier in all of the fights about Speaker of the House. She backed down, I think, at one point because Trump said, heel. She vanquished Boebert for Donald Trump's heart. And then Donald Trump takes her dream of being governor or being senator and squashes it. If you think she decided 3 weeks before January 5th to resign, not retire, resign, walk away. She's so mad about the Israelis getting weapons and so mad about the Epstein files not being released. She is going to remove herself from the literally 3 or 4 votes that exist in the House that control what the House does at this point. I'm going, does she have 25% at that power at that point as to where the House is going? Could she not have pulled 1 or 2 even Republicans with her if she was voting that way? I don't know. But I'm sorry. She doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff. If you've got a show with a conservative audience and you bring Marjorie Taylor Greene on to shit on Donald Trump and Epstein, great. If you have a progressive audience and you bring Marjorie Taylor Greene on, you're doing the opposite. Her utility is that she speaks to a conservative audience, and it may undermine some of the support there. Now, I doubt it. You want to criticize AOC on actual policy stuff? Find it, but that she's not taking Marjorie Taylor Greene seriously enough? Are you ill?
Yeah, so this is kind of Sam at his best here. He's going in, obviously. He's not going too hard on Ryan Grimm. Goes a little bit harder on Cenk in a second here, and I'll show you that. But really, I think the value that Sam provides a lot of times is that he digs very deep into these news stories himself, and so oftentimes comes up with different framing and different ways of looking at these things than what you're hearing from a lot of sources that are compiling things or just repeating what they're hearing or whatever. So not only is that useful to hear somebody doing, but also kind of trains you to do that yourself and to be a little bit more shrewd about taking in different news stories rather than just maybe listening to the framing of one source. And it's a good example of that here, where you have this framing of Marjorie Taylor Greene, left her political career behind her because she just couldn't abide this Epstein stuff and the genocide in Gaza. And, not only Ryan Grimm and Cenk Uygur and, left populist types, but also a lot of the mainstream media has been kind of going with that narrative, at least painting it that way from one angle or another. And, Sam Seder is pointing out here that it actually is kind of the opposite. She kind of walked away from being able to do anything with power because she wanted to bail on Trump's Republican Party because Trump crushed her political future. And another point that he makes in the course of this video is Marjorie Taylor Greene did this in a way where specifically she won't hurt the Republican Party because she was in a position where she had levers of power. She could do essentially what John Fetterman does with the Democratic Party, which is cut against them at very crucial moments and break towards the Democrats in order to give the Democrats a little bit more leverage than they have. Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't done that. She retired from politics just in time to get her pension, walked away, and is essentially trying to maintain whatever political capital she may be able to maintain to, wait out this era and run for office again at some point in the future. Clearly, she has some type of political ambitions because she keeps talking about politics. But Sam is essentially saying here that her intentions seem to line up more with somebody who wants to break from the Trump administration temporarily and maybe is even doing all of this just to fly in the face of him because he personally ruined her political ambitions. And so maybe, certain things about the Epstein files or Palestine or whatever is wrapped up in that. Except another thing that he goes to great pains in this segment to point out is that she's been pretty consistently pro-Israel this entire time after October 7th, all of that. It wasn't until her political ambitions were crushed by Trump that she flipped on all of these issues and began doing this sort of renegade routine. And as he points out, it's in a way that specifically is meant to hurt the credibility of Trump, but not get in the way of Republicans and their control of the levers of power while they have power. And so, he's theorizing that she's trying to maintain those political relationships. So, like I said, I mean, that's just, it's good analysis. It's definitely better than what you're getting from Ryan Grimm and certainly Cenk. And like I said, with Ryan Grimm, I don't know exactly what his bias is. He does this a little bit sometimes too with this left-right alliance, where he has on Dropsite, like, just posted really long clips of Nick Fuentes, just putting them out to a left-wing audience, specifically for the purpose of, emphasizing that Nick Fuentes was doing some kind of, again, pivot on Israel, all of a sudden going against the mainstream Republicans on the issue of Israel, but really just propping up a figure like that because for a certain chunk of his show, he's saying something that people on the left have already been saying, and that's exactly what people are doing with Marjorie Taylor Greene as well, is trying to uphold her, and you can see that there's a lot of people on the left who are genuinely taking that bait, and they're genuinely starting to look at people like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene as like real upholders of Palestinian rights, people who are really breaking for their conscience and, standing up for them. And I think specifically with Tucker Carlson, and specifically with, honestly, demographics of people maybe outside of America who don't have the same type of associations that we have with those two figures specifically, but have less of an attachment to the American left, let's say, they see somebody like Tucker Carlson or Marjorie Taylor Greene because based on the way the tech environment is and has been for the last 10 and more years, conservatives and right-wingers like that have more visibility. They benefit from more visibility. So people around the world who are concerned about this Palestine issue, very, very frustrated with American politics from all sides, people like AOC, Democrats, all of them, and Republicans, and they see somebody like Tucker Carlson speaking up coherently about Palestine and Israel in a way that they don't feel like they see AOC doing. And AOC does do that, but I think, on purely the merits of her record, she is clearly consistently standing up for these things in a way that someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene just straight up isn't. So here's the end of that segment where they go over that a little bit, and this is where Sam just kind of can't help himself but to bring up Cenk Uygur as well.
According to 538's Trump score, she's like in the top 3 of voting in line with Trump's agenda, 98%.
I can't remember who tweeted this. Yeah, I went through the trouble of grading Marjorie Taylor Greene's Palestine record. If she'd been a Democrat, she would have ranked 113th in the current House with a 29% score. F grade. Pelosi has a 34% score.
AOC is 4th. I opened it. She's 4th with a B. There's only 3.
I mean, it's just so stupid. God. If I have to read another obnoxious, just completely stupid Cenk tweet about this, honestly, it's just its own personal project in trying to build a right-wing audience, fine, but just please have just a little bit of self-awareness. I really tried not to say that. I really did. Didn't work. Yeah, what is the predictive markets predict in terms of where Marjorie Taylor Greene will be? Like, do you think she's going to be on the front lines of like the Palestinian rights movement? Do you think she's using all that fundraising power she had to raise money now for Palestinian rights organizations? I mean, give me a break.
Yeah, so the most important point to emphasize here, and people really forget this stuff, that, AOC's record has been very consistently in favor of Palestine, in favor of Gaza, and there's been a couple high-profile instances where she was perceived as making the wrong move, voting present or not voting for a certain amendment that people felt like she should have voted for. In one case, an amendment that Marjorie Taylor Greene put in that would cut Iron Dome spending and not offensive spending, which was the defense that AOC used at the time. Now, really, as we can see now, the only purpose of Marjorie Taylor Greene introducing that was to have that type of credibility, to be able to say that she did that and to be able to use it as a cudgel against somebody like AOC to say, you voted against this amendment, which is exactly what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing now. So in the interest of, voting against funding for Israel in every particular instance, it's possible that AOC should have done that. But regardless, I mean, AOC has gotten a lot of criticism over, voting for the Iron Dome, voting present on the Iron Dome, and not being as loud of a critic of Israel, or a critic in the exact way that people want her to be. And so because of that, I think they become way too open to right-wing figures who it's really important to remember that these people agree with you. If you're on the left in any sense, anything from fucking straight up communist to Barack Obama, it's very important to remember that you share very few views with somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Tucker Carlson, and they have not changed their minds in a broader sense. And you see a lot of people do this pivot where they're like, man, I was on the left, but now all of a sudden I'm rethinking everything, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe the right was right about everything all along, and maybe I have to change all my views and start spitting out only right-leaning talking points. You don't see that happening with these guys who are trying to pivot away from what is considered to be right-wing positions, specifically on Israel. I mean, really, they just see it as an opportunity that they can represent what is still considered the right, hardcore immigration policy, hardcore white Christian nationalism, but to break away from this issue of Israel. And so they're using the thing about genocide and dead babies, etc., as a way to feed their project, and they just see that it's something that's popular with the youth. And so it's the way to buoy yourself politically, especially amongst all these dinosaurs who don't see that they're on the way out, in many cases specifically because of that issue. So propping those figures up at this time, especially on the left, and especially if you're promoting this idea of having a left-right alliance, you are enabling those people to have a political future. And there is nothing about what they are signaling that should tell you that they mean to do anything other than consolidate the right-wing power that Trump has been laying the groundwork for. It's seeming clear that Trump is not going to be the one to finish the project of right-wing consolidation of power to the extent that that's going to happen. And so, propping up figures like Tucker Carlson or Marjorie Taylor Greene, who are willing to go against Trump on these specific issues, but only in a way that boosts their own profile. So again, if they're hurting the credibility of Trump by speaking against him, good, let them. But uplifting them and telling your audience to forget about all of the reasons that they have come to detest these people for good reason. These are not just like right-leaning people, conservatives. These are some of the most virulent and insidious voices of bigotry that we have ever seen in politics. They trafficked in that. So they are, in some cases, saying some of the right things. But as I've been saying about Tucker, if you listen to a lot of what they're saying, it's still building on this core idea of like spiritual Christian nationalism. And not only are those the right people to try to build a coalition with for like a political future of America, but they're also not the people who are going to, if ever given power, turn around and dismantle the American military industrial complex. Absolutely not. So, it makes sense to work with some people who are politically useful, like Thomas Massie, on specific issues that can get pushed over the line. But Sam's absolutely right here that Marjorie Taylor Greene walked away from any ability to actually do that, which she was in a pretty powerful position. Why did she do that? Because she didn't actually want to take the heat. She doesn't actually want to oppose Trump, and that makes her pretty useless to us.